Welcome back to Tethered and Whole. I'm Matt, and today we've got a bigger episode. We're going to be talking about trust, what it is, why it matters, how it forms, how it breaks, and what we can actually do with it in real life, in real schools with real humans who are carrying real stories. Here's the summary that I want to offer you up front. Trust is one of the quiet forces that helps us feel whole, because when trust is present, we can breathe, collaborate, take healthy risks, and grow. And when trust is absent, we spend our energy guarding, guessing, and surviving. So let me start today with a story that it still catches in my throat a little bit. A woman named Linda adopted a dog named Rudy from an animal shelter in Seattle, just days before he was scheduled to be put down. Linda was single, nearing retirement, and over time, she and Rudy built a relationship that was steady and simple. There was love, cuddles, routine, companionship. At night, they had their rhythm, snacks, and then each curling up in their own little bed. Rudy was well-behaved and predictable, a good boy. And then, out of nowhere, he broke all the rules. He wouldn't allow Linda to tuck herself under her covers. He jumped around, insisting on her attention, licking her face. And then it escalated. Rudy started doing it every time she tried to sit down. Linda couldn't figure it out. She didn't feel sick. She wasn't in pain. She didn't see any reason for her gentle little Rudy to suddenly become a frantic alarm system. Until one day, she noticed something strange. Rudy kept licking the exact same spot on her jaw. The same place. Every single time. Here's the hinge point, folks. Linda took a leap of faith. She decided to trust what Rudy seemed to know at a gut level. She called her dentist, and tests led to more tests, and the result was staggering. Linda had a type of bone cancer in her jaw. She went through chemo and radiation, and eventually her cancer went into remission. Her doctors told her that if she hadn't trusted Rudy's instincts, if she dismissed it as bad behavior or weird dog stuff, they likely wouldn't have found the tumor until too late. It probably would have been fatal. So yes, it's an incredible dog story, but it's also a story about a decision we all face in different ways. What do you do when something or someone signals that something matters, even if you can't feel the pain yet? That's what trust is like. Trust is often invisible until it's demanded. It's easy to think of trust as a warm, simple concept like, I don't know, a handshake, a promise, we're all good. But trust is actually a complex psychological and relational construct that starts forming early, very early in life. At its core, trust is a belief in the reliability, honesty, and integrity of another person or entity. It includes a willingness to be vulnerable. It's the choice to rely on someone without bracing for betrayal. Charles Feltman, a Maine trust researcher, describes trust as, quote, choosing to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. And I want to slow down here because that's not sentimental. That's not fluffy. That's a risk statement. Trust involves something you value, and it involves putting that something within reach of somebody else. And that's also exactly why trust hits so deep when it's questioned. If someone says to you, I don't trust you, it doesn't land like feedback on a task. It lands like an accusation against your identity. It rocks the core. It lights up the limbic system, the fight, flight, freeze. You stop hearing whatever comes next because your brain is already doing that threat math. And this is where the conversation usually goes wrong in schools and organizations. We treat trust like an all or nothing verdict, like a stamp, like a permanent label, trustworthy or untrustworthy. But human relationships don't work like that. Trust is multidimensional. It's behavior and contextual. And if we don't break it down, we end up tossing emotional grenades at each other and calling it being honest. So let's take a minute and break it down. Brene Brown gives us BRAVING. It's an acronym. Boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. The genius here isn't the acronym. The genius is that it turns a loaded word, trust, into an observable set of behaviors. So let's go through them. Boundaries. B, I trust you if you respect my boundaries and you're clear about yours. Reliability. I can trust you to follow through repeatedly. A is for accountability. I trust you when you own mistakes and make amends. V is for vault. I trust you when you don't share my story and you don't collect other people's stories. Don't gossip. I is for integrity. I trust you when you choose values over convenience. Non-judgment. I trust you when I can ask for help without being shamed and when you ask me to. G is for generosity. I trust you when you assume the best possible intention rather than the worst. Charles Feltman offers another framework: care, sincerity, reliability, and competence. Care means the person genuinely considers your interest. Sincerity means truth and integrity. Reliability is delivery. That means your promises are kept. Competence is capability. Can they actually do what they're responsible for doing? Again, the power of either model isn't that it solves everything. The power is that it gives us language that doesn't instantly detonate the relationship. Because when you can describe behavior, you can manage behavior, you can address it, you can work to repair it. So here's the difference in real life. Instead of saying, I don't trust you, you can say, I experience you as reliable with follow through, but I'm struggling with accountability when mistakes happen. Or maybe something like, I believe you care, but I'm unsure about sincerity and how information is shared. That's a completely different conversation. It doesn't erase the harm, but it makes the repair possible. And it also highlights an uncomfortable truth. Trust isn't all or nothing. You can trust someone with logistics, but not trust them with confidentiality. You can trust someone's competence and still not trust their generosity. And naming that nuance is often what serves a relationship from turning into more of a verdict. Now, trust also gets tangled up with some other concepts that look similar but aren't the same. Liking is not trust. Respect is not trust. Dependence is not trust. You can like someone and not trust them. You can respect someone's skill and not trust how they handle power. Likewise, you can depend on someone because you have no choice, while trust remains absent. This matters in schools because we sometimes confuse compliance with trust. We'll say something like, my staff trusts me, when what we really mean is, my staff doesn't challenge me. Those are not the same. And kids do this too. Quiet is not trust. Silence is not safety. Sometimes quiet is simply a strategy. Trust begins in infancy with secure attachment, predictability, consistency, empathy. And over time, children expand trust beyond caregivers. They begin collecting data. And I love that framing. Kids are not always being defiant. They're being researchers. They're testing, do you keep your promises? Are the rules fair? Do you mean what you say? Do you show up when things get messy? Every interaction teaches them who is safe, who listens, who can handle their truth without punishing them for it. And those accumulated moments build an internal model. People are trustworthy until proven otherwise. Or, trust is uncertain, so I must protect myself. In a classroom, a single moment of follow-through or a single moment of dismissal can echo for a long time. A kid is not just responding to today's moment. They're updating a lifelong file. And this is where mistrust enters. Mistrust is doubt or suspicion about reliability or honesty. It can come from betrayal, absolutely, but it also comes from cultural differences, historical harm, or a lack of information. We see this in organizations when information is withheld, when communication is vague, when decisions feel mysterious, or when people feel managed instead of included. Mistrust isn't just a feeling. It has consequences. Cooperation drops, communication fractures, conflict rises, and people withdraw. And schools can become places where everyone is performing professionalism while privately bracing for impact. Picture a simple scenario. A teacher consistently submits lesson plans on time. Then one week, because of an unexpected family obligation, they miss a deadline. The principal responds with, "I can't trust you to be professional anymore." That sentence doesn't address behavior. It attacks identity. It collapses a pattern of reliability into one single global judgment. And once that happens, mistrust has a foothold. The teacher may retreat, communicate less, disengage from collaboration. But imagine the other version. You're usually reliable with lesson plans, but I noticed this week's was missing. What happened? Now, notice, we're still addressing the same issue. We're not pretending everything is fine, but we're protecting the relationship by staying behavioral, curious, and grounded. Trust is built, remember. Trust is built, not delivered. It takes time and lots of little actions to construct, and it can be destroyed in a single action. It's like building Legos with a toddler, carefully creating the bridge that they begged for, only for them to smash it with a gleeful swipe. In schools, when trust gets smashed, people often respond with one of two extremes. Either they avoid the issue entirely because it feels too hot, or they go nuclear with global statements. Neither one repairs, because repair requires language, patience, and specificity. So what does building trust look like in a school environment? Let me give you 5 practical moves. First, be transparent about decisions and criteria. When people understand the why, they're less likely to fill in the gaps with fear. Second, match words and deeds. Behavioral integrity, saying what you'll do and doing what you said, is one of the quickest ways to build trust because it reduces uncertainty. Third, delegate with support. Empowering someone paired with coaching and resources, it signals trust while building competence. Fourth, recognize contributions. Recognition and fairness matter. People want to know their effort is seen and that the system isn't arbitrary. And fifth, address conflict early and constructively. Unaddressed tension doesn't go away. It's like it grows roots. But what about when trust breaks? What do you say without making it worse? Here's a script you can borrow. Start by expressing feelings using I statements, such as, "I felt discouraged when I wasn't informed about the schedule change because it made it difficult to adjust my lesson plans." Then, ask for clarification. "Can you help me understand why the new initiative was announced to families before teachers were informed?" Then, discuss the consequences. "When I don't have updated information, it affects how I communicate with parents and undermines their confidence in me." Then, set boundaries. "Going forward, I need at least a day's notice for schedule adjustment so I can plan accordingly." And then, if you're willing to continue the relationship, offer a second chance with specifics. "I'd like us to rebuild trust. If you can loop me into curriculum changes earlier, I think we can move forward positively." See how that works? No grenades, trust building, language, addressing behaviors. So along that same line, here's what not to do, because it's tempting when you're hurt. Okay? Do not accuse. "You never tell us anything." Also, don't threaten. "If you don't change, I won't participate." Don't drag in the past. "This is just like last year." Don't make assumptions. You clearly don't care. And don't demand instant change. Trust repair isn't a light switch. It's a slow relayering of evidence. The goal is not to return to the way it was, because you can't. The goal is to build a new normal, a new path forward, one honest action at a time. And I want to underline something that we can say that can save you, especially in emotionally charged moments. Curiosity is one of your most powerful tools. You can't be judgmental and curious at the same time. Curiosity creates space, gives your nervous system a chance to stand down from threat mode. And curiosity helps you separate story from fact. So start with clarification. Try to reframe from the other person's perspective, not to excuse harm, but to understand context. Then take stock. Maybe sit quietly, think for a moment, or for days if you need to. And when you respond, be specific. Don't say, everything's fine, when it's not. Name the hurt. Name the impact. Name what needs to change. Let me land this with one small strategy you can try this week, because trust isn't just an idea, it's a practice. Delegate something small to a student or another adult, and do it with language that communicates respect. Start with, hey, can you do me a favor? Or, I need some help with something. Can you give me a hand? People naturally want to help. It's the asking that's hard. But asking someone implies you trust them. And that implication is powerful. It says, I see you as capable. It says, you matter here. And sometimes in a classroom or a staff culture that's been running on suspicion and self-protection, that tiny moment is the first Lego on a new bridge. Because, let's face it, trust isn't built in speeches. It's built in patterns. It's built in follow-through. It's built in the decision to stay behavioral instead of global, curious instead of condemning, clear instead of vague. And maybe that's the invitation today, to notice where you're being licked on the jaw, metaphorically speaking, the spot you've been ignoring because you don't feel the pain yet, the signal you've been dismissing as, probably nothing. Sometimes trust is not naive. Sometimes trust is wisdom. Sometimes it's survival. Thanks for spending these minutes with me on Tethered and Whole. If this episode gave you language for a conversation you've been avoiding, or maybe repair you've been wanting to make, hold on to it. Try one small trust action this week. And as always, stay tethered, keep becoming whole, and I'll see you next time.